Welcome to this week's Read the Bible Story Together session. And we continue our series in the book of Acts with a story from chapter 9, verses 1 through 20. And this is the conversion of Saul. So, Saul to Paul is the story from the Spark Story Bible from Sparkhouse Publishing. And it's a little longer than a few of the stories we've had lately. So just listen or follow along in your own Bible and think about what it would mean for you to hear from God that God is renaming you and giving you a very special job. So, Saul to Paul. Saul was a bully and he hated everyone who was a Christian. Saul wanted all Christians thrown in jail, but God had other plans for Saul. Even though Saul was a mean person, God loved him and had a big surprise for him. Saul had been ordered to go to Damascus. He smiled slyly to himself. If any Christians lived in Damascus, he would find them. He would arrest them and bring them back to Jerusalem. Saul smiled confidently. He had arrested Christians 100 times before, and he could do it again. Suddenly, swirls of dust blew up from the road. Saul covered his eyes with his arm. "Storm's coming up," he shouted to his men. Crash, flash, kabash! Saul fell to the ground. A blinding light exploded around him, and a strong voice spoke to him. "Saul, Saul, why do you hurt me?" Saul rubbed his eyes. He couldn't see anyone. "Who are you?" Saul stuttered. "I am Jesus," the voice said. "I am not dead. I am very much alive, and I have plans for you. Go into town and wait." And you can see Saul there on the ground on the road after the dust storm blew him over, and Jesus was speaking to him. Saul and his men were speechless. They could hear the voice, but they couldn't see anyone. Saul waved his hand in front of his face. "My eyes, I can't see. Someone get me up," he ordered. Because he could not see, Saul's men led him by the hand into Damascus. There, Saul waited and prayed. He wasn't mean or bad anymore. God had touched Saul's heart. A man named Ananias was in Damascus, and Ananias loved Jesus. God told Ananias to go to Saul and pray so that he might see again. "But Lord," Ananias said, "Saul is a mean man, and I am afraid of him." God said to Ananias, "I have chosen Saul to bring my story to many people. I have a plan for him." So there you can see Ananias and Paul in the street in Damascus meeting each other as God instructed. Ananias found Saul just as God had said. Ananias prayed for Saul, and Saul was filled with God's Holy Spirit. Suddenly, Saul could see again. Ananias told Saul that God had a job for him. Saul was to tell people about Jesus. Saul was baptized, and his name was changed to Paul. Paul served God for the rest of his life. He became a friend of Jesus and told many people how Jesus had changed his heart. And you can see there the two men praying, and Saul getting his sight back and being renamed Paul and given a very special assignment from God. So, in this Lent season, as we're close to wrapping up Lent, think about how you have connected with God and Jesus through this season. And is there something that God has put in your heart that you are called to do or be for the church and for your community?